you the link.
Okay, perfect.
It says meeting is now screening live. Yeah, Mom. He talking about a G?
He might have been. Sometimes he said receipt. He said he got a receipt.
Oh.
But he does ask for Uncle Ajib sometimes.
Does he? Probably
Yeah.
not. Frank, how's the family?
Everyone's good, thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So I understand that they have started doing prayers again in the Islamic Cultural Center, but they only let, I think, 10 people in at a time. And they're still spacing, you know, they're not standing close next to each other doing the prayer. Me personally, I think I would wait a little longer before I started, you know, doing prayers in congregation like that until we're sure that this virus has been, by Allah's mercy, under some type of control, that it's not as threatening. Because like people like yourself and myself who are, we're older, you know, it's very dangerous for us to catch something like that at this point in our life. So if we can avoid it by following the rules, it's probably better.
I'm glad you said that. That would have been my question.
Yeah, that's a question in everybody's mind. But Dr. Dunya used to say to me that I should be very careful. He used to give me some different scenarios on if I was in this position and I had to try to save somebody, should I do it if it was threatening to my life? And he would always tell me, when there's 10 or more Shaykh Ameens that can give people the knowledge, then you can, you know, take a chance. But as long as you're the primary person, you can't take a chance because you're responsible to take care of all the things that the people need to the best of your ability. And so this is one of the reasons why I emphasize teaching students until they can become accomplished, so that, you know, I can feel that if something happened to me, they could take over and do, you know, and make the people happy with their information, inshallah. So, but in general, I would say to a person, you know, you still have to be extremely careful, even if, you know, the people in the masjid, the ambassador or somebody says, you can go back in the building, and because people don't always follow the rules, you know, sometimes the emotions of people lead them to do things that are outside of the rules. And with something like this pandemic, if they did that, they could be jeopardizing the lives of other people, not only themselves. So you have to be extremely careful with that. Anyway, should we start now? Habib? Oh, Isaac, what do you think?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam tullah. Should we start now?
Yes, I think we should start. It's almost 10 after. If Habib is ready.
he joined us shortly. I'm ready. That was City G on the other line. He says he's joining us shortly. He had to run out the house, so that's why I took the call to make sure everything was okay.
Oh.
My son. Oh, there we go.
That's a great.
So see this action. Go ahead and start.
Bismillah. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وأهل البيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إني أسألك من كل خير سألك من محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم وأعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك من محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق الناس والأخلاق الهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدر ومقدار عظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله جماعة. How's everyone doing? This is Brother Habib Rasul Miller, and I'm welcoming all of you to another one of our weekly classes with our teacher, Shaykh Ameen Abdul Awul. We're very, very thankful and appreciative. Muhammad, come look. Subhanallah. We're very appreciative that Shaykh Ameen is continuing this class. Alhamdulillah, I was worried. I didn't know if he was going to continue through Ramadan, but alhamdulillah, he's still after Ramadan. But alhamdulillah, he's still doing it. So I'm thanking him, and I'm commending you all for participating and taking advantage of this really, really special opportunity to study from Shaykh Ameen. I always say, just in case we have new people, to give you by way of introduction, Shaykh Ameen has been studying and teaching the Maliki madhab since the late 60s for more than 50 years now, more than anybody else we know of in this country, in this part of the world. He is the top American student of the profound, renowned scholar of fiqh and theology and tasawwuf, Dr. Suleiman Dunya, rahmatullah alayhi, from Azhar. Shaykh Ameen studied with him here, and he also studied in Egypt. And he is Shaykh Al-Azhar. And we have the opportunity to study this subject of Maliki Fiqh with Shaykh Ameen. And I want to encourage you all to take the opportunity to ask questions after Shaykh Ameen is finished with his class. This is a very rare opportunity. I've been blessed to be able to meet scholars from different parts of the world, but there's always a limitation they have because they're not from this part of the world, right? There's always a limitation they have because they're not from this part of the world. So to have someone that we can benefit from who not only has mastered the material, but is also very, very in tune and aware and abreast of the things that we're dealing with in our particular situation, who's one of us, is something that, you know, we maybe we don't realize just how much of a benefit it is. And also, again, for new people, the lessons that he's teaching are from the text Ashar As-Saghir, which is one of the highest, and some would even argue maybe the highest authoritative text in the Maliki Madhab. So the lessons that we're getting are taken from the rulings from that book. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my teacher. I'm going to hand it over to my teacher, Shaykh Ameen Abdul Awul. Shaykh Ameen, thank you again. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وتابعين له بإحسان إلى يوم الدين اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وآل بيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أنا بعد. So I'm continuing this class after Ramadan because of the necessity due to the virus and some of the things that are going on in the world today makes it very difficult for the people to get out and do their normal lessons in the masjids, which, you know, everybody knows my feeling about that is that this is some type of a substitute, but it's not the same as actual study face to face with you, the professor. In any case, I don't want you to get the impression that doing this type of study is enough to make you proficient. It can help to give you the inspiration to want to do the work in its proper format by coming out if you have the ability. If you don't have the ability, you know, I will try. You know, many brothers have asked me to keep doing this class, even though things may change and the people will be able to go back into the masjids and things of that nature. If they live a long distance away or something like that, you know, illnesses and different things that would prevent them from being able to come, I will continue to try to do something on the behalf of those people, which would give them the ability to talk to me about what they need, inshallah. But remember, the better way is always to sit face to face with the teacher. And if you're learning from a book on your own, that is not the way. You may convince yourself that you're teaching and learning, but that is not the way. Many of the scholars have said that that is not the way. You will not be able to achieve the success of a student or a teacher doing it on your own with a book. So after clarifying this, let me say a person that needs ghusl, let's say he's what's called janub. Janub means that they have a spiritual impurity of the nature that is big enough for them to make ghusl, for them to need ghusl. This is called hadis akbar, the big spiritual impurity. The small spiritual impurity is called hadis asgar. That means that the person who has hadis asgar needs wudu. But the one who has hadis akbar, he needs ghusl. So it says that when the person is junub, he can use a tayyamun under these conditions, but as soon as a person comes to water, he must make ghusl. So, under these conditions, in the Shar Sagriya, in the books of Fiqh, generally there's a section called the Hamish. The Hamish is the commentary on the sides of the page that the scholars give information about the decision. In the Hamish or commentary, in the margins of the Shah Sagri, it states, if a person is going to intentionally make himself janub, like if you're gonna sleep with your wife or your husband intentionally, knowing that they wouldn't find water afterwards, then then neither tayammum or wudu could replace the required ghusl. So that is like a main rule. You can't make yourself impure if you don't have a way of using the water intentionally. You cannot use any other substitute. So this is a rule. Make sure you completely understand this rule. Don't make yourself janub if you're not going to be able to use water to make purity in ghusl. Nothing else can substitute that. If there's no water and one is janub, one may not make tayammum. A person should not make himself janub if he knows he doesn't have water. But if a person is janub and he looks everywhere and he can't find water, it is allowable for him to make a tayammum, and he would be allowed to come into the masjid, even if they have broken wudu or they need ghusl, and they make a tayammum when they can't find water, or the person doesn't have enough water. So let me clarify these statements. When they say there is no water, they don't mean the luxury that we live with here in this part of the world. The luxury that we live with in this part of the world is that we have the ability to go and turn on the faucet, and the faucet is generally someplace in our available area that water will come out and we can use it. What they mean is there's no water is that you have actually had to get up, move around, and look for water. See? So when they say there is no water, they're talking about places outside of a place like we live in, where the water comes out of the faucet easily, unless there's some kind of major difficulty in your area that the water is turned off. And in that case, like I remember when there was when all the lights and everything went out, and the systems were all malfunctioning, we had to go out to the stores and buy water that we could use, and we had water available like in our house after we went out and bought it, and we'd have water for drinking and we'd have water for purity, and then we'd have water to use for ghusl. And you know, this was very difficult for people like us because we're used to turning on the shower, the faucet, and these things, and water just comes out. And I was thankful for the lessons because we were not mentally in a difficulty. We knew exactly what to do under these conditions. So, a tayammum is done under the conditions that you cannot find water. But the biggest thing for that is that you have to look for it. And you look for it as long as you have the time to be able to do it before you lose what's called the adda period for prayer, the good time for prayer. Once you lose the good time for prayer and you've looked for water here and there, you should make a tayammum and make your prayer if you are janub. You probably want to write this stuff down because you're gonna I know from past experiences, people have a lot of questions about these type of things. So that you don't get confused, you write stuff down, and then inshallah, you ask me and I'll try and clarify it in a way that you will not worry about it anymore after that. There's nothing worse than wanting to put your knowledge into practice, but don't fully understand how to do it. And this makes us sometimes problems for the people in their mind. You know, they start to doubt whether they know what they're doing. So I like to clarify these type of things so that the people can feel comfortable in their practice. Allahumma salli wa sallam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So it has some conditions for tayyamun replacing ghusl. So put that title in your notes. Conditions for tayyamun replacing ghusl. And what they're really saying is that you can't just do it in general. You know, you can't just come up with your own invention and make a tayyamun instead of making ghusl. Because if you do it by your own invention, you're still impure. Fiqh is different than many other subjects in Islam. Fiqh doesn't leave a lot of room for guesswork, if any at all. So, for a traveler, listen to me, each of these statements are meaningful. For a traveler, if he doesn't have enough water to stay alive and to make a ghusl at the time, he should use the water to stay alive. If you are prevented from using the water that you find because someone will kill you or some animal will attack you, then you should make a tayyamun. So in that case, the danger is such that if you go to the water, you may not come back. If someone will steal your goods, and you're going to find the same talk in regards to carrying your goods or carrying your Quran. And I made a statement last week to tell you that that practice of carrying your Quran around is not considered as a good practice, because, you know, things will happen to you, to your body, to your, you know, things will happen that the ulama say you don't want to have your Quran with you, because when you become impure for some reason, you shouldn't be carrying your Quran under that condition. That's exactly what I mean. In the madhab Imam Malik, they're very, very strict about the Quran and how do you handle your Quran and what is necessary for you to be able to carry or pick up your Quran. In any case, that's another lesson, but I want to emphasize, very important to follow these rules and not to try and use your imagination as if, you know, like it's some other subject, maybe you could get away with that, but not in fiqh. Okay. If someone will steal your goods, that is, you are unable to bring your goods to where the water is. And if you went for the water, leaving your goods, someone will steal them. In that case, you're allowed to use a tayyamun. For the people who don't know, a tayyamun means in the madhab Imam Malik is kind of different in regards to what you can use for a tayyamun. And in the madhab Imam Malik, you have to actually see the dust or the sand or the earth that you can pat it, say Bismillah, pat it, wipe over your face once, pat it, and then wipe your hands and right and then the left. And if you want to make the extra, what they call the mustahab, you can do your wrist to your elbow like that. This is a tayammum, but you have to see the sand, the dust, the earth, these things, in order for you to say, I'm making a tayammum in the method of the madhab of Imam Malik. Now, they have other madhabs that don't require the vision of the earth or the sand or the dust. And that is, in particular, the madhab Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullahi alayhi. And he says that on everything, your garments, your furniture, everything has some level of dust or something that can be used for a tayammum. So even though you can't see it, microscopically, he's saying, there is something there that you can pat that, and this, that, and you would have a tayammum too. But in the madhab of Imam Malik, you have to see what you're using visually in order to make a tayammum with it. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. Right now in my class, if people were sitting in front of me and some of the things I'm saying, the people would be raising their hands, wait, shake, 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 like that, you see? Which I know that for sure because I've done this so many times. And then I would have to spend a large part of the class in the explanation because everybody's mind now is racing and they want to know as much as they can know about that decision. Okay. Another thing is, if you feel the water will make you sick or it will prolong your illness, and this usually comes to people who have fevers, and people who have different types of viral infections. Some of them, they can't take the water at that time until it goes away because, it makes them either sicker or extremely uncomfortable. In some cases, maybe even painful to the body. So you will know, you see, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know that He knows whether we're just taking a shortcut or if this thing is actually happening to us. So if a person is playing mind games, thinking he's playing mind games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, I can't make water now because I feel a little sick. Doesn't mean if you got a headache that water's not gonna change anything in your headache. But it means some things that are so, generally it's a fever or something like that, that water at this time for you is a little bit dangerous. You shouldn't use water under certain conditions. See? But don't pretend, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. So if you pretend that He knows, and you try to use a ghusl, you try to use a tayyamun to replace ghusl or something else due to some sickness, it's not going to be accepted unless the sickness is real. You see, it has to be real. Okay. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak Allah Sayyidina Muhammad. If you have only enough water needed for yourself, and you have another person along with you, as long as the person is not an enemy to Islam, then you both should use the water for your needs and do not use it for ghusl, because it's not enough water. It may only be enough water for you and him to drink it to survive, your trip, or until you can get to more water. See? So the other person could be another Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, who are not enemies to Islam. But if the other person is an enemy to Islam, then you use the water for ghusl, and that's better for us. So in this case, the ulama are saying, if the person is an enemy to Islam, and you only have enough water, if it was two people, enough water for you to share the water to drink, but you have this enemy to Islam, it tells you use a little for your drink, and the part that would have been used for another Muslim to drink, you make ghusl with that, because the enemy to Islam does not deserve to take away your ability to make a formal purity with ghusl. Again, if the person that's with you is an enemy to Islam, he should be patient in regards to when the next water will come. You're not obliged to oblige him when it comes to your purity. You should make the purity, and he should wait. Okay. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So, if you have an animal with you that serves a purpose for you, like a horse, a donkey, a dog, the dog serves a purpose. If it's a working dog, like you have a farm or something, or you're traveling and you have a dog in the woods with you, and he's smelling out things for you to shoot for food. These different things, he has a use that you need to have that animal for your survival at that time. If that's the case, give this animal the water and you make a tayyamun. You understand me? This animal is so important that if you only have enough water to give the animal enough water for his survival, and you have a little for yourself for survival, you don't make ghusl with this water over the animal. But listen to me. If you're listening to what I'm saying, I'm telling you that in these cases, The animal is more important than the enemy of Islam. You need the animal to survive. You don't need the enemy of Islam for nothing. See, the only reason that he will get some water from you as a humanitarian effort, but if it's not enough water, then he just gotta wait. See, and you can make ghusl. Whereas the animal that you need, that you're traveling with him, that animal should get the water to drink it, to survive, and you should make a tayyamun. Okay. So if you're with a person who left Islam, okay, this is one of the biggest things you can do against yourself. To go before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after him giving you Islam, and you throw it back and say, I don't want this. I'm not gonna stay with this. You are called an apostate. Apostate in Islam is a major crime. My teacher used to think of a person who had heard about Islam. That person who had heard about Islam, and people are calling that person intelligent, my teacher would say, did he start to practice? You say no. My teacher would say, he's not intelligent. Something is in his mind is not working properly. Because anybody who hears about Islam and looks into it, that is intelligent, will come to the conclusion, I should be practicing this. See? So I don't care how intelligent people think they are. If they're truly intelligent and they hear about Islam and start to look into it, if they don't practice it, they're not intelligent as far as Islam is concerned. But if the person has started to practice Islam, and then someplace along the line, they turn their back and say, I'm not going to practice that. I'm not going to be one of them. I'm out of here. That person is worse than being ignorant and not intelligent. He's a criminal as far as Islam is concerned. He is like an apostate, is even worse than the person who's a kufr. A kufr, you can help him by argumentation and explaining to them why they would be better off practicing Islam. But a person that you have already had that argumentation with, you've gone through all these procedures with them so that they can learn to practice Islam, and they turn their back, they're worse than the kufr. You see? So, get this clear. And when somebody does that, you don't have to spend all your time trying to convince that apostate to turn back to Islam. He has gone beyond the point. Apostate is beyond the point. See, either he is majnoon, he has completely lost his mind, or he wasn't true from the beginning. This is Islam's position. Maybe he was trying to fool you from the beginning. I'm a Muslim. And okay, case in point. During the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had groups of the enemy that used to go amongst the Muslims and try to cause confusion. See, these people, these hypocrites, intentionally pretended to be Muslim. And of course, as you know the history, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't participate with these people. They built something, they called it a masjid, but actually they used to use it to plan against the Muslims in secret. See? So these are considered as worse than the kufr. The apostate and the hypocrite are considered in Islam the worst position a person can put themselves in. They're more subject to your scrutiny, to be careful of them, even more than the disbeliever who has no knowledge about Islam. Okay, let me just finish. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. If the choice time of prayer comes and the water must be gotten, but if you go to get it, the time for the prayer will go away. When they say the time for the prayer will go away, they mean what's called the adda, or the good time for the prayer, and that's a whole subject. I can't cover that briefly. You know, this is a subject. So the people who keep continuously coming to take these lessons, there's some things that I will emphasize, and I will let you know this is called the adda. It means the good time for your prayers. And then there's another thing that goes with that that's called the qadda, which means like the overdue time for your prayers. So right now I'm telling you, if you have to go and find water and it's going to take you out of the good time for your prayer, then you have the right to make a tayyamun, so that you will not lose the good time for your prayer. Okay. If you can wash one time the forward parts of wudu, that is better than to make a tayammum for your prayers. The person who uses the water for one wiping should lead in prayer the person who made a tayammum. So one wiping with water is considered better under the conditions that you only have a small amount of water than to make a tayammum with sand or dust. And the person who make the one wiping, of course, would be the person who should lead the prayer, because that one wiping of the forward parts of your body makes you in a better position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the person who made a tayammum. And a tayammum only lasts for a very small amount of time. And one of its conditions is that whatever you made a tayammum for, as soon as that condition is fulfilled, the tayammum goes away. Like if you make a tayammum, if you have the right conditions to make a tayammum, and for like say Zohar, and as soon as you complete Zohar, you go back to the state of not having purity, because the tayammum will go away as soon as you complete that action. Okay, what I said is exactly what I mean. Don't let your mind play tricks on you. the shaitan, a'udhu billahi, he loves to make your mind confused. The scholars say the reason he loves to do that is because when your mind becomes confused, the person sometimes becomes frustrated. And the person will say, okay, my mind is not so clear right now. I'm gonna not do this action right now. I'll come back and do it later when my mind clears. Unfortunately, that is generally not what happens. Generally, when the person postpones it because of that reason of confusion in the mind, he will not come back and do that thing that he should have done. So one of the reasons I teach classes very directly to try to eliminate you having confusion in your mind is so that we can fight the shaitan, a'udhu billahi, who likes to play tricks on the minds of the believers through confusion. Okay. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak Allah Sayyidina Muhammad. If you learn that the water, if you know now the water is better, then you are responsible for using the water. In other words, don't allow yourself to make up your own reasoning for why I'm going to use a tayyamun, or why I'm going to use a tayyamun over water. Because once you know that, if you have the availability of water and you have none of these reasons that will send you to make a tayyamun, then you have to use the water. If you don't, your prayers and things, your ibadah is going to be invalid because you will not be considered as having made the proper cleansiness. You should have used the water and you didn't. Okay, and you have none of these legitimate excuses. So once you know the water is better and you have access, then you must use the water. It says if you can reach one whole rak'ah, that's the whole rak'ah is from standing with al-Fatiha, making ruku, then standing from ruku. When you stand from ruku and you go into sujood, when you go into sujood, that rakat is considered out of your ability to keep it. When you go to pray with the imam, and the imam stands from ruku, and then you come to make prayer with him, even though he goes into sujood, you can't consider that going into sujood with him as catching that rakat. Catching the rakat means you have to get with the imam before he stands from the ruku. Okay. If you can reach one whole rakat, even if you have to wash each part once, you should do so. So they're telling you to come to the prayer, and the imam says, he says, Allahu Akbar, and he starts to make the prayer. That doesn't give you the right to make a tayammum if water is available. That only gives you the right if you come and you can see that you will not be able to catch at least one whole rakat with the imam. But if you can make at least one wiping with water, then you should do so and try and catch just one rakat with the imam, and when the imam says assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, then you stand up and you make the other rakats that you have missed. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop now so that you can ask me something as you like, because this subject generally has people want to question, and so that they make sure that they know exactly what they're doing when it comes to their purity. Okay, Dr. Rasul.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum. I'll take their questions now, inshallah.
Okay. And for anyone who is just joining us or is unaware, please type your questions in the chat. That's the best way for you to send your questions. Type your questions in the chat, and we will ask them to Shaykh Ameen. If for some reason you can or something, if you raise your hand, then we can take your mute off and let you ask it that way. But the best way is to type your questions in the chat. Type. So Shaykh Ameen, we have just a few questions so far. I assume more probably coming as we ask. The first question, someone asked, who is considered an enemy of Islam, and then who is considered the kafir?
The enemy of Islam are those people who do as much as they can to keep Islam from spreading. Now, some people that consider themselves Muslim, that call themselves Muslim, they're the enemy of Islam too, if they in fact are doing things that keep people away from Islam instead of going towards Islam. Now, sometimes those people are doing it, but don't really know what they're doing. Them maybe some saving for them, maybe if we can bring it to their attention and show them how, they're making a problem for Al-Islam, they will, realize, oh, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I'm not, so let me change. But the enemy is considered those people, even some of them that say I'm a Muslim, but instead of their actions leading people towards Islam, people use them as an example and run away from Al-Islam. They are the enemy. You have people who are the enemy of Islam that they know that Islam is better for people than what they're living, like the politicians and these type of things. Case in point, this country is founded on riba, yani on interest. So the people of interest, of course, they want to keep Islam out of their country if they can. The people of the market for alcohol and gambling and these type of things that are all against Islamic way. If you're in a place where, the government is not an Islamic environment, they will probably try to poo-poo away the Islamic ideologies because it would interfere with their capitalism. In which case, as we see that is done nowadays constantly, is they blame the Muslims for everything that's bad, and the person that's doing it, they call him a Muslim. He's not a Muslim at all. He goes in the bars and he kills people. That's not Islamic. And they know that that's not the way of the Muslim, but they'll call him a Muslim to keep the people's mind away from al-Islam. See? In any case, the kufr is the person that doesn't understand the right way of belief, the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oneness of Allah, the prophethood, what makes one a prophet. You know, like the people of today who think of Isa alayhi salam as the son of God, a'udhu billahi astaghfirullah min dhalik, is because they have no education about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his unity. So they call kufr because they have the wrong aqidah. It's like their understanding of things in regards to faith is all messed up. But they can be helped, because I have even physically seen my teacher give lectures to the priests and the nuns that came to visit the Islamic Center of New York. And they came in with a Christianity belief, and they left out taking Shahada, because he explained to them in a very logical way why there could only be one God, why he has no son, daughter, wife, grandmother. None of that stuff applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once he had finished explaining and they asked questions, and he took them into the realization that the Bible is not the best way to get information based on its history. And so the end of the discussion was, well, how can we become a Muslim? And he gave them, a group of them, the Shahada at the same time, the priest and the nun, because they had no formalized education regarding al-Islam, you know, and they're considered as kufr, disbelievers, but theirs is mainly because they haven't had it explained to them properly. And this is a problem of the Muslims today. We're walking around thinking of ourselves as superior to the other people because we were granted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's information about himself and implanted faith in our heart. But what we are not really taking account of is that we are also now responsible to help other people with that information. And if we don't do it, they will have an accusation against us before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of our days. And they will say, well, how could I have practiced when none of these people told me anything about that? Okay, so as you like, Dr. Habib.
No, I'm still listening at this moment. Muhammad had a question. No, so someone also asked a question about a tayyamun, and they said, so I'll just read the question. It says, so with the statement that you have to search for water, so considering the fact that you have to search for water and the fact that water is readily available,
I can't understand what you're saying. It's breaking up.
In major cities. He's basically asking the question that is tayyamun valid in major cities? And is it permissible in major cities?
Habib, I'm only hearing half of what you're saying.
Is that better, Sheikh?
That's better.
Yeah. He's saying that since water is generally available in the major cities, is tayyamun permissible in the major cities? Or is this just something that you'd have to do in the rural areas?
Again, I explained this in detail previously. I said generally in an environment like this one, which is a major city, if you turn the faucet on, you're going to get water. And that's right in your own home or in somebody else's home that you're visiting. But occasionally, they have some things that go wrong with the systems in your city. And if that happens and it affects you in your environment, then you have some things you can do to find water. If none of those things are available, then you should make a tayyamun because you can't find water. But if you can go to if you can, like, let's say the problem is in your place and not the same problem in the place of your neighbor who lives near you. You can go to the neighbor who lives near you, take your bucket and say, can I have some water, please? If you have the ability to go to the store and buy water in a container, you should buy water and use it for purity. But under what they're saying is under certain circumstances, and generally it's for someone who's traveling. But under certain circumstances, things happen and water is not available. When that happens, then you have to look at the case, see if you can find water. If you can't find water, then you have the right to make a tayyamun. I hope I made myself clear.
Yes, Shaykh. Yes, Shaykh. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad. Brother Frank is asking a question.
I'm losing
asked, I think it's just something going on with my connection.
Let Frank ask me.
Sure.
I had two questions. The first one is if the Fajr prayer is at 3:45 a.m. and sunrise is at 5:30 a.m., how late can I pray?
Allahumma salli wa sallam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. The Fajr prayer and the Maghrib prayer do not have a great amount of time. After the adhan, after the second adhan in the mother Imam Malik, you should be praying very shortly after that. Don't look at these calendars and say, well, between this and that, how much time do I have? If for Maghrib and for Subh or Fajr, as you said, you don't have time like that. What that second time is not a measure between the time of Fajr and the time of sunrise that has anything to do with you and your prayer. That's totally misleading. That prayer of Subh, it should be done while it's still not light outside. One of the signs that you are late for your prayer and maybe have a problem with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you continue to do it in that way is when you can look out and you can judge without the street lights or these things being on, without artificial light. You can judge a man from a woman. That means that it's now light enough that you can see, which means that your prayers are late. These prayer books, they're not considered as the best method to find your prayer times. They are actually a secondary or third level of what is the best way for you to pray, get your prayer times in. And this is why I keep emphasizing the subject of the times of prayer, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions had no little prayer book with a time on it that they considered as, now it's 3 something. What only thing that does is it kind of like alerts you to, hey, maybe I should stop what I'm doing and get, or wake up, whatever it is, make a preparation, like it's time for the prayer. Because for those 2 prayers especially, you don't have a long period of time, so you should make them. It's always better to make your prayers in the beginning of prayer time. You should always try and make your prayer in the beginning of prayer time if you have the ability. But for the people, for like say Zoh and As, they're at work. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in the course of our day, because he knows we're doing these other things in the course of our day. So he makes the prayer time for those days, what they call the adha, or the good time, longer. See? So if you're at your desk and you're doing your work and you see, oh, the prayer will be coming in soon. Well, yes, but that prayer for Dhur As coming in soon doesn't mean that, if you're at work, you have to stop right now and go and make that prayer. No, because Allah gave you during the course of that day a much longer period of time before the prayer time becomes in jeopardy. Okay, that's as best I can answer you without doing the whole subject. Now, what is your other question?
My other question is, you mentioned that there's relates to this question, there's an otter and a qadr time for all the prayers.
Yes.
My next question was going to be, what are those times? I understand what Fajr is now.
Yeah, that's the whole subject. I can't tell you that, like, just, without you doing the subject. It's not a thing, it's not a subject that I can just say, oh, the time for this is that, the time for that. It's a whole subject. You'll have to wait until I get into that subject, inshallah. Okay, so in the meantime, you can use these prayer calendars, prayer books, and it will suffice if you follow that example. But if you're gonna follow that example from the books, then you need to try always to make your prayers in the beginning of the period in those books. You understand me? Okay. And what they say, mushkidda, it means you understand what I'm saying. Okay. As you like.
Nah, and sound like Brother Frank, we can maybe take some time to cover that on Thursday. And then if you still have questions, then you can ask them. You have more specific questions, you can ask Shaykh Ameen on next Sunday, inshallah.
Absolutely.
I think we had maybe one more question. Muhammad. Someone said, was that the only question? I think I might have skipped one. No. Alhamdulillah. So that's all the questions we have for now. If anybody else has any more questions, please hurry up and type them in the chat now so we don't miss you. Or raise your hand if you type slow. I saw one person look like they were trying to type something, but it looks like it wasn't complete. So if that's the case, please, finish your question. So I don't know, Sheikh, if you want to maybe just give them a minute or so to see if anybody else has any other questions.
So for
so someone said
okay, go ahead.
No, they asked, can you make a tayyamun to read the Quran?
To read the Quran requires purity. If you don't have the ability for, as I was saying, in these conditions, if you don't have those conditions, no, you can't use a tayammum to read the Quran. You have to have water or purity, unless you have some of those conditions I described in the class that allows you to make a tayammum. because when they say make a tayyamun, they don't mean for only this or that. They mean anything that will require purity. You understand? The Quran don't have a special purity different than making your prayers or things that require ablution or ghusl. It's in that same category. So if you have the conditions that allow you to make a tayyamun and the water is not available, then you have the right to make a tayyamun. This is another whole subject regarding the Quran. A lot of I've watched the people. It's very difficult when you have some knowledge about something and you watch the people not to react to everything. A lot of times, if the person doesn't really want to, or if they don't show that they're interested in learning something, I'd keep it to myself, because nobody wants to spend their life correcting other people. I only do it like if somebody comes to me and says, Sheikh, like I had somebody come to me from Africa, and he came into my office in a big panic. He said, Sheikh, I need to talk to you. I said, yes, what is it, brother? He said, I just flew in from Africa, and the only reason I made this trip was so that I could ask you a question regarding making prayer. He said, I ran into one of your students in Africa, and he saw me making prayer. And after the prayer, he said to me, oh, brother, you should at least move your tongue and your lips when making prayer. You can't just stand silent and make your prayer by yourself or lead other people. The least you have to do is move your tongue and your lips. So he asked me, he said, Sheikh, was your student accurate? I said, yeah, actually, he's told you exactly true. And it kind of hurt me a little bit, because this person, people are calling him Sheikh, and, but they call him Sheikh for a different reason. They call him Sheikh because he made a lot of money. But I felt bad for him, because he'd been spending his life thinking that he's making proper prayers, but he hasn't. This really hurt me to tell him that, and a person who wants to help the people, he shouldn't be like a hawk or a vulture that's always sitting around waiting to get the next person who makes a mistake. You can't do that. You have to, pick and choose who I always tell my students, if you see the nature of a person is that they don't want to hear it, then don't tell them. If you see that the person may even want to fight you because, they think they already know, and here you are telling them, you don't know that. That's not the way it goes. You make more of a fitna than anything else. You make, so nobody wants to be that person who's always trying to correct people and stuff. But some people, you can tell they really want to know, and they would appreciate you trying to help them to find out. Those are the people I don't mind talking to. But in general, I don't volunteer. I don't it's hard being around the groups of people, and seeing some of the things that they do that is outside of the Islamic way. So what I do sometimes is, if I have a platform, like I'm speaking here, and then I won't be talking to an individual, but I'll be talking to the people behind the platform, and they can take or leave what I'm saying, but without me having a confrontation with them personally. You understand? It's like you got to pick and choose who you do this with. If it wasn't for the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Dr. Dunya, make me learn how to protect myself physically, and that way when I'm doing Islamic work, I feel secure. I probably wouldn't be able to do half of what I've been doing, because there's always somebody. Look, brother, people are the strangest thing. They love you when you saying the stuff they like. But if you tell them something they don't want to hear, then they don't like you no more. They don't consider, maybe he's telling me the right thing and I should really check myself. No, they want me to be the person who sanctions what they do. Now, if I don't sanction that, then I may not hear from them for a while because they don't like me now. And unfortunately, that's the nature of people. Some people didn't like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we know that he was perfect. Basically, the only thing he did was try to help people. But some people, and it's not, you gotta remember, it's them. It's not always you. We learn from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, if people are gonna treat the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam like that, just imagine what they're gonna do to other people. So Dr. Dunya, he made me understand. You're gonna find this, and I've been doing this for a long enough time that I know the nature of people. Sometimes you tell them something they don't want to hear. You may not even be talking to them. I may be talking from a platform. And that person will avoid me after that because that's not what they want to hear. They don't look and see, well, she's talking from the madhab, he's talking from the big ulama, So if it don't agree with what that person thinks it should be, I'm wrong. Why won't he consider, maybe he just don't know, and maybe he's the one who need to reevaluate his position. Okay, is one more thing. Sometimes people complain, but they don't complain in the Islamic frame. The Islamic frame says that before you make a judgment on somebody, you need to walk a distance in their shoes. See? And you can't argue with a person who has put in their work for knowledge unless you have put in as much work or more. So when somebody wants to give me back talk, the first thing I want to know is, well, where did you learn? Who was your teacher? What was your grade level? What subject matter? See? So if you can't fulfill those things and it's in my category or above, then you need to be quiet. You have nothing to say. So sometimes people complain. And like someone complain, they'll say something, oh, I don't like the way this brother is monitoring your class. I'll tell him, well, he's doing a wonderful job. Because if he wasn't, I'd be the first one to complain to him. But you're complaining out of your own sensitivities. And yes, maybe he don't do it exactly the way you think he would do it, should do it. In that case, if you think you can do it better, then volunteer yourself and we'll test you out. But you can't put a judgment on somebody who is doing Islamic work. And because it don't agree with the way you think it should be done, that unless you are a better at doing that, they had a person. Listen to me, I got to stop soon. They had a person in the Islamic Cultural Center many years ago. I came into the masjid with some brothers. And this person, an Arab, was teaching the people so-called fiqh. And I stood there and I listened. I said to myself, what was he talking about? This is not any organized method of fiqh, of teaching fiqh. He don't even describe what the book he was using, or who his teacher was, or nothing. But because he spoke Arabic and he was reading from the book in Arabic, which it was useless to the Americans because they didn't know what he was saying. So his interpretation, they had to say, that's what he said. But that wasn't even clear. Let me explain to you. That wasn't even clear. So the people were wasting their time sitting for listening to something that they didn't know what the heck the guy was talking about. And he had the whole place was full of people, American Muslims. So I went to the Imam. Actually, I didn't. Somebody in the entourage went to the Imam. He said, Imam, why you got this person doing this when obviously he's not doing a good job, because the people are more confused than they was before he started. So the Imam, this Imam was a really good Imam. He says, really? He said, I never listened to what he was saying. He said, you an American brother. He said, you got other people who feel like he told the brother, he said, yeah. He said, but the reason I'm asking is because Shaykh Ameen is here with us, and we could just ask him to teach a class. Why don't you just ask him to teach a class? So the Imam said, he don't know. He come from Palestine. He don't know. He said, well, who's Shaykh Ameen? So the brother said, I'm gonna present this information to you, and we're gonna put in a request that you let Shaykh Ameen teach us out of this Islamic Cultural Center. So the brother asked me, he said, well, Sheikh, I had a talk with the Imam, and we would prefer that you would come in here and teach these classes. This was a long time ago. We prefer that you come in here and teach these classes. I wasn't really 100% anxious for that, because I know all the stuff that goes with it. And I had been doing it for years before that. So I gave in. And I started to teach these classes from the Shah of Sangria. My teacher, Dr. Suleiman Dunya, my approval letter from Al-Azhar. And I gave it to this brother. He took it to the Imam. So after he took the letter and all my information, he took it to the Imam, I got a call from the Imam. He said, can you come into my office? I really would like to talk to you. Okay, inshallah. I came into his office, and he was like very apologetic that he had overlooked my ability to teach my own people, and that he had put this other person there instead who was confusing the people. You see? But let me tell you what the people did. The people started walking away from me, and I'm speaking their language clearly with all of the right information from the right sources and the proof of who I am. But because I wasn't an Arab, they walked away. And this guy, he was talking to them, they didn't know what he was talking about. This is not totally insane. Totally insane. See? And so even today, I find some people, they'll say something stupid like, well, you're not talking Arabic. You don't understand Arabic, knucklehead. What the heck is the difference? What am I gonna, how can I help you if I'm talking to you in a language you don't understand? Let's be realistic. What is wrong with these people's minds? Somebody come to you, you don't know who he is, where he come from, who sent them or nothing. They throw him in front of you and you're ready to follow him and don't even know what the heck he's talking about. Come on, man. Well, what is wrong with us? What is wrong? You know, one person told me, because I don't charge money, this must not be valuable. Can you imagine that? That they have set their minds that it gotta cost money for it to be valuable. Did the Prophet ﷺ charge money to teach the Sahaba? Did any of the prophets charge money to help the people? I mean, the whole system is just, it's just all, the shaitan, our great enemy, he's doing a terrific job of keeping us stupid. So I'm going to tell you, you know, in all sincerity, that we need to reevaluate what we're doing, you know, and because you're making 5 prayers a day, fasting for Ramadan and paying your zakat, these are things you're supposed to do. They're not things that make you better than other people. These are things that you are supposed to do. See, the person who is not doing those things, they're in derelict of their duties as a Muslim. But it doesn't make you better than everybody else, because these are the things you're supposed to do. But if you're not learning stuff and then trying to help other people with what you're learning, you don't have to become a scholar to help people. You learn how to make wudu well. The people who will listen to you, they say, oh, I heard you took classes on how to make wudu. Can you help me with mine? You're supposed to help them. You don't have to know all the subjects and everything. No, the things that you know, you help people with that. Okay. If you have nothing else, I'm going to make my prayers now. Do you have anything else, Habib?
One person is asking about if you could talk a little bit more about going to the masjid or not going to the masjid during the time of this virus. But I don't know if you want to take that now, Sheikh, or just revisit that next week.
Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala sayyidina Muhammad. Muhammad, you should be taking a nap, Muhammad.
I'm trying to take a nap.
You trying to take a nap?
You trying to take a nap? Muhammad, I'm waking you up. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, some things, you know, because there has never been this type of worldwide virus, this is something unique in the lives of the people of today that require you to use your intelligence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you with. If you can discern the seriousness of this problem, and you see the rules that have been put in place, as I started with this talk in the beginning of this class, you can't consider that the administration of a building that has no real ability to tell you, okay, now it's safe. Everybody go back to what you was doing before. You don't have to listen. You don't follow that. You have to use your own intelligence and your own investigative methodology to make sure that you are not putting yourself in the line of fire. Just because some people are in the habit of going to the masjid as a part of their daily routine. See? So this whole thing, for them, it's not just worship, but it's an interference in their daily routine. See? But, you know, I mean, if you don't feel that it's safe for you and your investigation doesn't show you that it's okay now, everything is back to normal, you know, I would not go into a masjid that is not following the direction of the professionals. I'm not saying that they're always absolutely right. Don't misunderstand me. But the Islamic principle is to always try to find the person who is most informed about these type of things. So it's like they say, you don't go to a shoemaker to find out about jurisprudence. You go to the scholar who studied jurisprudence in the university and got permission to teach other people. Now, if the scholar in the university has a side work of being a shoemaker under the law, you can talk to him because he has both things. But if he only have the shoemaking ability and he's charismatic and all the people listen to what he's saying because he says it nicely or something, that don't mean you got to follow him because he don't have the credentials. See, so the people in the masjids who run the masjids, they're losing money when the constituents stay away. So they want you to come back into the masjid, but at what cost? So I'm telling you, you have to be aware of this. You have to do your investigation. You have to feel safe about going into the masjid. Of course, it's a hadith that talk about the people who have their hearts are always in the masjid. I'm one of those people. But, I have watched the habits, the cleanliness habits, and the habits of the people who go into the masjid, and sometimes they cough all over each other. They don't cover their mouth. They, some of them don't wear no mask. Some of them are just plain nasty. They blow their nose and throw the tissue in a place that it's not in the garbage, stuff like that. So if I'm not feeling good about them in general, I'm feeling even less good about them under this pandemic. So I mean, you got to use your own intelligence, bro. I can't tell you don't go to the masjid, but I'm telling you that if you're gonna go, make sure that you have done your best to put yourself in the safest position, because let's say I'm just careless, and I'll just the masjid is open, I run back to the masjid, and some brother who's not very clean about his habits and don't follow the directions, and I'm I get infected. I mean, we all know that these infections come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, like, whatever he send you, that's what he send you. And if he mean it for you, I don't care what you do, it ain't gonna stop it. But you're supposed to try and do your best to avoid the problem. See? But let's say I don't follow the direction. And I go in there, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decide, okay, hey, you want to go in there now and not follow the directions, and just because they say you should go, you go. No, I get sick and I can't work anymore for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the people go to people to ask questions that don't know what the heck they're talking about. They're not giving you the exact right information or something. Whose fault is that? That's my fault. So I go before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he say to me, well, why would you put yourself in that position when you didn't investigate enough to see that it was safe for you to be able to do that? Am I making logical sense to you? I hope I'm making logical sense to you people, because a lot of times people are judging things without really fully understanding what's going on. So yeah, I mean, if you feel comfortable with that, and you see the habits of the people, and you say, well, they trying to do good with cleanliness habits and distancing and following the directions, then yes, you do what you feel is good. But if you don't feel that that's good, brother, I don't know how many of you have been, like, to Mecca, but when you go, you're going to see people from all these different places, And some of them come from places that have no idea about cleanliness and sanitary conditions. And people come back from there with all kinds of germs and stuff. Now, I got very sick there, and everybody was complaining about these people that cough all over you and they don't cover their mouth. And okay, but I'm in Mecca, so as far as I'm concerned, if I die over here, mashallah, and if I had it to do all over again, I would do it, in spite of knowing that the people are not really, like, sanitary. They don't follow the rules of sanitary conditions and stuff like that. But you're in Mecca. But that don't go for like the neighborhood masjid. Come on. If they're not being sanitary and following the rules, no, I'm not going in there until things change, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allows us to make our prayers and different things, not only in the masjid, but in the park, in your home, see, on your job. Okay. I've done my duty to you. Inshallah, I hope I made things clear and that you can take benefit from it and put it into practice. Because just information is not enough. You have to put it into practice for it to become wisdom. Okay. Habib, Dr. Habib, you want to tell us something else?
Nope. Just thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair, ya Shaykh. I don't know, Sidi Ishaq, did you have any announcements you want to make?
No, not at this time.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Shaykh. We look forward to seeing you next week, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah. Ajib, my brother Ajib Abdul Salam say that he want me to do this class, so I'm doing it. But mashallah. Okay.
Yeah, but inshallah, please remind Habib to give us the YouTube website for those of us who are having difficulty getting on there.
Isaac.
Yeah, Sheikh.
My wife said, can you please send us that information about the YouTube, National Ilm America, the YouTube information for the people that have a hard time getting on Zoom?
Yeah, so
The National Ilm YouTube page, if you go to that page, these classes are hosted live, and any previous classes that Shaykh Ameen has given via Zoom are on that page as well. I'll send the link out on the multiple WhatsApp pages, and Shaykh Ameen, I'll send it to you so your wife can be able to pass it to other folks as well, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Okay, thank you so much. Allahumma inni as'aluka min kulli khairin salaka minhu Muhammadan nabiyyuka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa a'udhu bika min kulli sharrin ista'faka minhu Muhammadan nabiyyuka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma ighfir lana ma qaddamna wa ma akharna wa ma asrarna wa ma lana wa ma anta alimu bihi min nar rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati حسنا وقنا عذاب النار. وإني أعوذ بك من المية والممات ومن فتنة القبر ومن فتنة مسيح الدجال ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير. At the end of all of our business on this earth, at the end of our business before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Him to give us that which is good. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, we'll see you next week. Inshallah ta'ala.